Blood Shadow Country. Chapter 1, The Fate Gamble. The night is low, and the lights reflect the hustle and bustle of the city. Located in the east of the earth, Baihu City is a place full of opportunities and pitfalls. This is the place where all hopes can counterattack, and it is also the place where countless people's dreams are shattered. Yan Hanyuan, an unknown young man in the city, lives with the sole goal of earning enough money to treat his paralyzed legs. Yan Hanyuan's life was not brilliant. He was once the proud son of the family, but his legs were paralyzed because of an accident. The glory and luxury of the past passed him, and now, he can only struggle to survive in the dark corners. However, Yan Hanyuan was unwilling to live such a life. He knew that only money could cure his illness. To do this, he decides to take part in a gambling game, a game of the upper class, with huge prizes but no less immeasurable dangers. This gamble is not just about money, it's about life. He heard the old gambler beside him whisper. The rules of the game are simple but brutal. Participants use their wits and courage to devise an ingenious strategy and fight their opponents in the arena for 30 rounds, and the winner will not only receive a huge prize, but also enter the circle of the upper class, enjoying supreme power and resources. Yan Hanyuan clearly knows that if he can win, he will not only fight for his own life, but also to treat his own injuries. He has already looked down on everything, just looking for this opportunity, and he will not let it go no matter what. The moment the gambling game began, Yan Hanyuan realized that this was not just a competition for money, but a contest full of power and intelligence. Chapter 2, Hidden Wisdom. The gambling arena is like a fighting arena, surrounded by tall walls, and in the center is an open field filled with all kinds of weapons and traps. Yan Hanyuan stood at the edge of the field. His heart was full of anxiety. Every opponent in front of him was not a simple person. From everyone's gaze, Yan Hanyuan could feel a strong murderous aura. If you want to win this gamble, you have to use your brain. Yan Hanyuan whispered to himself. Soon after, the first matchup of the field began. Every duel is full of variables, whether it's the use of weapons or strategy, every detail is related to victory or defeat. Yan Hanyuan found that although this gamble is mainly based on strength and skill, it is actually more a test of the intelligence and psychological tactics of each contestant. Yan Hanyuan is well aware that he lacks great strength, but he has a special advantage, that is, extraordinary intelligence and strategy. In the following matches, he carefully used his strategy, using his opponent's self-confidence to set traps. Through clever layout and scheming, he managed to defeat his first opponent. When several leaders of the gambling game looked at Yan Hanyuan, a trace of surprise couldn't help but flash in their eyes. His name also spread quickly in this gamble. Chapter 3, The Strong Are Like Clouds. As the gamble progressed, Yan Hanyuan's opponents became stronger and stronger. In every duel, he won with his strategy and wisdom, and gradually attracted the attention of the upper echelons of power. After each battle, Yan Hanyuan's reputation grew. However, he was not resting on his laurels. He knew that behind this gamble, there was a bigger conspiracy, and this conspiracy was closely related to the future that he could not foresee. One of his opponents, Mu Gangyuan, was a famous general who had fought in countless wars in the past. A trace of contempt flashed in Mu Gangyuan's eyes, but he also realized that Yan Hanyuan was extraordinary. Your wisdom is good. Mu Gangyuan said coldly, but on the real battlefield, only strength is king. Yan Hanyuan is not afraid of this. He knows that strength is important, but what can harness power is strategy. He did not confront Mu Gangyuan in a hard-fought way, but took advantage of the opponent's weakness to skillfully use a strategy, and finally let Mu Gangyuan fall into his trap. The gambling game became more and more intense, and Yan Hanyuan gradually became the focus of attention. Behind every one of his victories was a well-planned scheme. And he himself began to think about a question: how deep is this gamble? Chapter 4, The Intersection of Power and Emotion. As the gambling game gradually reached its climax, Yan Hanyuan gradually discovered that he was no longer a simple gambler, but had become a pawn in this power struggle. He realizes that this is not just a gamble, it is a contest of power and wisdom, a game that determines the fate of the country. One night, Yan Hanyuan met a mysterious woman. Her name is Mouyehua, and she is one of the most high-profile women in the gambling game. Mouyehua has peerless beauty, and her wisdom and strategy are also amazing. However, her identity has remained a mystery. Every time she looked at Yan Hanyuan, there was always a hint of elusive deep meaning in her eyes. You're special. Mouyuehua's voice was soft but powerful, not only your wisdom, but also the determination in your heart. Yan Hanyuan's heart suddenly moved. He knew that Mouyuehua's words were not just a compliment to him, but a touch of some hidden power deep in his heart. Mouyehua seemed to know some secrets that Yan Hanyuan had never known, and these secrets were closely related to the true purpose of the gamble. Chapter 5, Fight for World Domination. The final showdown came, and Yan Hanyuan and Mouyehua stood on the final stage of the gambling game. This battle is not only a competition of wisdom, but also a test of faith. Yan Hanyuan knows that this victory or defeat is related to his future destiny and the fate of the entire country. If you win, you will be the ruler of the land. Mouihua's tone was low, and a hint of determination flashed in her eyes, but if you lose, all this will be a thing of the past. Yan Hanyuan looked at her eyes, as if he saw the layers of conspiracy and oath behind her. He took a deep breath and finally made his choice. He was no longer fighting for money and the hope of his own healing, but for the land, for all innocent lives. In the final battle, Yan Hanyuan counterattacked with an unexpected resource, successfully won the victory, and became the overlord of this land. His name is not only a legend in the rivers and lakes, but also a witness to that period of history. However, at the pinnacle of power, Yan Hanyuan finally found that the real challenge did not only come from external enemies, but also from his own inner struggle. Chapter 6, The Dark Tide Surges. Yan Hanyuan reached his difficult and dazzling peak, only to find that this is not just the end, but a new beginning. The taste of power intoxicated him, but at the same time it brought with it an inescapable heaviness. He sat on that towering throne, holding in his hand a jade scroll engraved with ancient runes, the scroll that recorded the secrets of all the emperors of the past, which now belonged to him. All of this has finally fallen into my hands. Yan Hanyuan whispered, but there was no joy in his eyes, but a faint confusion and contemplation. He knew that the spreading darkness behind him was never really far away. Mouihua quietly walked into the main hall, her steps were light, and her temperament faintly carried a hint of threat that could not be ignored. Yan Hanyuan felt that every step she took was silently challenging him. Mouihua's face was still so calm, as if everything was under her control. Yan Hanyuan, do you think that if you sit on this throne, you will be able to control everything? Her voice was low and defiant. This is just the beginning of power, and the real test has just begun. Yan Hanyuan raised his head, his eyes as sharp as a blade. Mouihua's challenge was not untargeted, and Yan Hanyuan had already felt the arrival of this moment in his heart. He knew that behind this game were not only the enemies of the outside world, but also the allies who had fought alongside him. What you're trying to say? Someone's plotting, isn't it? Yan Hanyuan smiled faintly, with a hint of self-deprecation in his tone. He was not unaware that there were already too many people who had secretly made secret agreements with him in that gambling game, and the purpose of these agreements was obviously not to share this power. Mouihua's eyes flashed with a glimmer of essence. She was not surprised by Yan Hanyuan's reaction, but added a bit of threat. She approached Yan Hanyuan and said in a low voice, if you really think that you can handle all this alone, then you are very wrong. In this country, the hidden power is too deep, whether it is an internal traitor or an external enemy, it is an existence that you can't ignore. A surging light flashed in Yan Hanyuan's eyes, and he suddenly realized that he might have been deeply blinded all along. Can his success really be based on sheer wisdom and strategy? Or is there something else at work behind it? You're trying to say, I'm already stuck in this game, am I? Yan Hanyuan stood up, his eyes swept over the books and weapons beside him, and a terrible thought appeared in his heart. Was all this already predestined, and he was just one of the pawns? Mouihua didn't answer her question, just stared at Yan Hanyuan quietly. She understands that even if Yan Hanyuan is smart, he will not be able to get out of the whirlpool of this conspiracy in the end. There was a hint of helplessness in her smile. Whether you are willing to accept this reality or not, the road ahead will be extremely difficult. Chapter 7, Betrayal and Alliance. As Yan Hanyuan ascended to the pinnacle of power, those former allies began to gradually reveal their true colors. Jiasu, Guojie, Pang Tong, and other strategists who had fought side by side with him seemed to have begun to keep a trace of distance from him. In their eyes, Yan Hanyuan sensed an imperceptible indifference and vigilance. These former friends are now potential threats. One day, Yan Hanyuan received a secret letter from the north, revealing that Guojie, Jiasu, Pang Tong, and others had formed an alliance behind their backs, ready to overthrow him, and some people were even secretly planning assassination. His heart shook, and the smell of betrayal made him even more uneasy. Yan Hanyuan immediately summoned Mouihua to get her help. Our opponents are not only external forces. Yan Hanyuan said in a deep voice, telling Mouihua the contents of these secret letters. The internal problem is the most tricky. Mouihua was not panicked, she nodded slightly, a trace of coldness flashed in her eyes. I'm afraid these people's ambitions can't be hidden. If you don't take precautions, your reign will surely fall into the abyss of no return. Yan Hanyuan smiled bitterly. I always thought that they were my most trusted supporters, but I didn't expect their minds to be so sinister. This game seems to be doomed to betrayal from the beginning. Betrayal has always been part of the power game. Mouihua's tone was calm, even a little provocative. However, this is also your chance. You can take advantage of these betrayals and take control of the whole situation in turn. Yan Hanyuan pondered deeply after hearing this, and he had made a decision in his heart at the moment. He decided to use the betrayal of these strategists to fight back, pull them off one by one, and re-establish his rule. Chapter 8, The Final Showdown. After months of planning, Yan Hanyuan's action finally reached a climax. He carefully laid out Guojie, Jiasu, Pang Tong, and others one by one to provoke internal contradictions, and took advantage of the differences between them to break them down one by one. In a battle of power and strategy, Yan Hanyuan successfully resolved several internal crises with his intelligence and strategy. In the end, Yan Hanyuan and Mouyehua jointly planned a complete counterattack. They used counterplots to skillfully expose the conspiracy of Guojia and others in front of everyone, and with the help of external forces, they were wiped out. This counterattack not only allowed Yan Hanyuan to regain control of the situation, but also made him understand the truth: in this game of dominating the world, only a wise man who is fearless and constantly surpasses himself can become the final king. However, even though Yan Hanyuan eventually defeated the betrayer and secured his position, he could not erase that deep sense of emptiness in his heart. The pinnacle of power did not bring him the expected satisfaction, but made him feel more lonely and powerless. What did I lose from this game of power after all? Yan Hanyuan muttered to himself in a low voice, looking at the boundless world. He knew that no matter what, this land still needed a ruler, and this ruler might be destined to pay more.